When I was president, we had a record number of millionaires. Plenty of people made money, and nobody resented it, as nearly as I could tell, because it was perceived as fair. What Americans don't like is unfairness. We had 22.7 million new jobs in the 90s, only 5 million today. You cannot raise incomes in a country this big producing 5 million jobs every 7 years. You can't do it. We had almost 8 million Americans work their way from poverty up into the middle class in the 1990s. That is the American dream. And this decade, 5 million falling from the middle class into poverty. We've got to grow together again, across all the lines that divide us, including place and income. The job of politics is to give a sense of shared opportunities and shared responsibilities so that we can build the community by doing it. So here are the reasons I think you ought to be for Hillary. Number one, I believe she would do a far better job more quickly of turning the economy around, because I think she's got the best ideas and the best experience as a change maker. And let me be quick but tell you what they are, because this is not simple. Number one, we have to have more jobs in America, and they have to be able to be created in every state in this country, and in every county, in every state. So she has a plan to begin with 8 million jobs that cannot be outsourced. 3 million fixing our roads, our bridges, and our rail lines, providing for clean water and better sanitary conditions. All those jobs have to be created. And 5 million jobs doing what other rich countries are doing that are performing better than us. That is, there are a handful of really wealthy countries that are doing very well. They're creating more jobs, swelling incomes, reducing poverty. You know what they have in common? Every single one of them has made a very serious commitment to energy independence through homegrown clean energy and energy efficiency projects. This is something I know something about, because in my current non-political life, in my foundation, I work all over this country and all over the world, proving that you can fight global warming and create lots of jobs. America's Project Energy Independence is the number one thing we can do for the next decade to explode economic opportunity in this country and save the planet for the young people. There was a study done last year that said we wouldn't have to build another power plant in America for 40 years if we would maximize the energy efficiency of our buildings. Hillary proposes to repeal the tax subsidies we never should have given to the oil companies anyway in 2005. And create a strategic energy fund to give every state the money to make more energy efficient every school building, every government building, every college building, every hospital, every auditorium, every public facility. You create a huge number of jobs, lower the utility bills, which is for a lot of people better than a tax cut now, as high as they are. You'll improve the environment for our young people. And you'll just be able to keep on doing it for years and years and years, and it can be done everywhere. The second thing is, we ought to be generating more of our own electricity from the sun, from the wind, from biomass. This is a big deal here. The Energy Department has a study that says there are enough wind blows between West Texas and the Canadian border, even when the politicians are talking, to electrify America. Now, we can't do it. Why? Because it would cost $1 trillion to redo our whole transmission system. But in Hillary's economic plan, there are funds to give the states to run modern, efficient transmission lines to where you can make clean energy. Now, this could be really important in South Dakota. One of the reasons she won Texas is, a lot of people don't know this, Texas generates more electricity from wind than any other state, but they are nowhere near capacity because the wind blows hardest, most consistently in places where there are no modern transmission lines to take it back to the grid. So you need somebody who will say the federal government has an interest in making sure that in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, wherever, in these rural states, very often the place where it makes the most economic sense to put the windmills up, there are no transmission connectors. If you vote for her, you will get that. We'll have more solar energy, more wind energy, and we will have it. say, oh, you know, solar and wind will never be a big part of our future. They're all assuming that we can't change the future. One of the reasons she won Ohio is because Ohio has a plant that produces more solar panels than any other plant in America, and they're about to open another plant. Not in America. And no, not in China or in Mexico. They are opening in Germany, where it costs more money to operate. Why? Because the Germans generate more electricity from the sun than we do or anybody else. Even though they're 1/5 our land mass, 1/3 our population, actually less, and the sun doesn't shine as much. What's shining in Germany? Public policy. They are investing in tomorrow's energy and energy independence and jobs instead of yesterday's interest rates. If you want to change that, you should vote for the president and give yourselves a better future. Let's give you a couple of other options. With the rising price of food, there's a lot of controversy about ethanol production. But as all of the farmers here know, you do not have to produce ethanol from corn. The reason it's produced from corn is that it's the cheapest material to turn it into the fuel. But it's the least efficient way if you can get the cost down. Hillary proposes to change the tax structure so it'll be just as attractive to produce it from the leavings of every farm crop, the leavings of any timber stand, any kind of field grasses. That will take the pressure off food prices, the pressure off the quality of the soil, and enable every state in America to produce their own ethanol. Here's what's good about it for South Dakota. You can't put the stuff in a pipeline, which means you have to produce it about every 100 or 150 miles. You think of all the rural communities in this state that have not had any new production jobs in decades. We can do it, and you can produce more of your own fuel. I'll give you another example. I mentioned a minute ago biomass. Biomass is a fancy way of talking about garbage in landfills. You could empty every landfill in this state and use the garbage either to make ethanol or to generate electricity, cleaning up the environment, gaining control of your economic future, putting people to work, and lowering your fuel bills. This is the sort of thing America should be doing and what we should be talking about in this election. It's a big deal that can change the future of this country. Now, the second reason I think you ought to vote for her is that she's the only candidate that's offered a short and a long-term solution to this gas problem. And let me just talk about it. Hillary believes that there are a lot of people in America making a decision every week between filling up their tank to go to work and putting food on the table for their kids or buying medicine for their families. And she believes, since most people can't just go out and buy a new car that gets higher mileage right away, and in this housing market, hardly anybody can sell the house they're living in and move closer to work, that it is worth trying to give 5 or 6 months of relief to people by doing two things. First of all, by stopping diverting oil into the American Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Now, the president runs this, so I know something about this. It's a good thing you have one, but it's 97% full. If it's over 90% full, we can handle any emergency that comes up. It is a perfectly legitimate thing to say, for the next 6 months, we're going to send that oil to the refineries to increase the supply and drop the price. You'll probably get about a 20-cent drop a gallon just with that. The other thing she thinks is that since the oil companies have made record profits for doing nothing, just riding the elevator up, that for 6 months they ought to be asked to pay your share of the federal gas tax so you can have a holiday and make it good. Now, that would provide about 6 months of relief in the neighborhood of 40 cents a gallon. And she knew when she proposed this that a lot of the people we are otherwise identified with, that a lot of the environmentalists would say, well, this is a pander, we just got to get rid of oil. Yeah, we do, but we're not going to do it in 6 months.